My wife cheated with her boss, and now he's claiming half of our $350, $0 house and $200, $0 in savings, even though she lied about everything during our divorce negotiations. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here writing this down, but here I am. It all started with what seemed like small signs, little things that didn't quite add up. You know how sometimes you just have a gut feeling? Well, mine was screaming at me, but I didn't want to believe it. I was married to for nearly 10 years, and in that time I thought we had something solid. She was smart, beautiful, a little bitchy sometimes, but I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. At first, it was just little things. Her phone pinging late at night, her suddenly being secretive about her schedule, excuses about work emergencies or client dinners. She'd brush me off when I asked questions. Say I was paranoid or insecure. That should have been my first clue, honestly, but I kept telling myself I was overthinking. We had a nice house in the suburbs, a decent savings account, and we'd built a life together. I worked hard, made good money, and was supposed to be my partner, not my secret nightmare. Then came the day I found the email. I was cleaning up my laptop, just doing my usual routine, and I saw her open her email while she was sitting on the couch. I didn't think much of it until I looked over her shoulder and saw a message from her boss, Mike. The subject line was "Can't wait to see you tonight," and the tone was flirtatious, almost desperate. My stomach dropped. I saw her reply saying she'd be ready at 7. That was when I realized this wasn't just work talk. This was something else. I started digging. I knew I shouldn't have, but I couldn't stop myself. I checked her phone, her social media, her texts. It didn't take long to find the pattern. Flirty messages, late-night calls, secret meetings, and the worst part, they had sex. I found explicit. Pictures, screenshots, really of her and Mike in some hotel room laughing and touching each other like they didn't have a care in the world. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My wife, the woman I trusted, was cheating with her boss. The one person who was supposed to be her mentor, her confidant, her partner in crime, was now her lover. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there, staring at the messages, trying to process what I'd uncovered. I felt humiliated, betrayed, furious. How could she lie to my face about everything? She told me she was working late, going to yoga, meeting friends. Meanwhile, she was sneaking around with a man who was supposed to be her boss. It was like my whole life was a lie. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I didn't see it coming, but deep down, I knew I'd ignored the signs because I didn't want to face the truth. The next morning, I confronted her. I knew I had to. I sat her down in the kitchen, my heart pounding, and told her I knew about the affair. Her reaction was classic, defensive, bitchy, full of lies. She everything at first said I was paranoid, jealous, insecure. She accused me of snooping, called me crazy for accusing her of cheating. She said Mike was just a professional contact, that I was overreacting, that I had no proof. But I had enough to know she was lying. Those messages didn't lie. Her excuses were ridiculous. She said I was imagining things, that she'd never cheat on me, and if she did, it was just a stupid mistake. She claimed she loved me, that she was just stressed at work, that Mike was just a friend, but I knew better. I could see the truth behind her words, the way she avoided eye contact, the nervous fidgeting, the way she tried to brush off my questions. And the worst part, she had the nerve to act like I was the one in the wrong. That revelation hit me like a freight train. I felt my world crumbling. I'd always believed in honesty, loyalty, the vows we took. And here I was, discovering my wife had been lying to my face, sneaking around, betraying everything we built. I was angry, yes, but I was also devastated. I kept thinking about all the nights I'd come home, thinking I was coming back to the woman I loved, only to realize I'd been living a lie. My mind was racing with questions. How long had this been going on? Was she ever truly faithful? Did she ever love me? Or was I just a placeholder, a safe harbor for her until she found someone better? I remember feeling sick, physically sick. My hands trembled as I looked at her, trying to understand how someone I trusted could do this to me. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I felt betrayed, angry, humiliated, and strangely a little numb. I knew I had to think clearly now. I had to decide what to do next. But I also knew that this wasn't just about finding out she cheated. It was about what came after, what I was willing to accept, and how I was going to get my life back. After I confronted her, her reaction only made everything worse. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, the one that made me want to punch her. "You're overreacting," she said coldly, crossing her arms. "It's just sex, okay? It doesn't mean anything." She dismissed the whole thing like it was some minor mistake, like I was being unreasonable for feeling betrayed. That pissed me off even more. How could she be so callous, so dismissive of the fact that she'd been sneaking around with her boss, lying about where she was, lying about her feelings? She told me I was paranoid, that I'd always been insecure about her success at work, about her being ambitious. She said I was jealous because she was doing better than me, that I was jealous of Mike because he was the one getting her attention. She even had the nerve to say that I was the one who caused this, like I somehow drove her into cheating. She spun these stories, trying to make me feel like I was the crazy one, but I wasn't buying it. I knew she was lying. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head, her words, her accusations, the images I'd seen. The betrayal cut deep. I'd always believed in honesty, in sticking things out, in fighting through problems. But this was different. It felt like my entire world was shattered. I kept asking myself, how could she do this? How could she lie to me, cheat on me, and then turn around and act like I was the problem? It was like I was living with a stranger, someone I didn't even recognize anymore. The hardest part was realizing I had to make a decision. Do I stay, try to fix this, or do I cut her out of my life? I knew I couldn't trust her anymore, not after what I'd seen. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that the betrayal wasn't just about the sex or the lies. It was about the fact that she'd willingly hurt me, knowing how much I cared. That sting of knowing she'd lied about everything, especially her feelings for me, made me feel sick. I decided I had to gather evidence before making any move. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I also didn't want to be again. I started looking into her bank accounts, her emails, her phone records. I found out she'd been funneling money to Mike, some kind of side deal, I guess. She opened a secret account under a fake name, and I found transactions that made it clear she was planning to run away or at least cover her tracks. The more I uncovered, the angrier I got. She had been lying for months, maybe longer, and I had no idea. I also started talking to a few friends, people I trusted. I needed advice, someone to help me see what was real and what wasn't. That's when I realized how many other guys had been cheated on by their wives, how common this kind of betrayal was. It made me feel a little less crazy, like I wasn't the only one who'd been by someone they loved. But it also made me angry at how common it was, how these women could just throw away years of trust for a quick fling or some kind of thrill. Meanwhile, kept up the act, acting like she was innocent, like I was just imagining things. She'd come home after her work dinners, acting all sweet and innocent, trying to pretend nothing had happened. But I saw right through her. Her eyes darted, her voice was too rehearsed, and her stories kept changing. She was trying to cover her tracks, but I knew the truth. I knew she was still lying, still hiding something. That's when I started planning my next move. I knew I had to be smart. I didn't want her to find out I was onto her until I had everything I needed. I started documenting everything I found, screenshots, bank statements, her messages. I even hired a private investigator to follow her for a few days. I needed proof, undeniable proof, that she'd been unfaithful and that she was planning something more than just an affair. I also started thinking about the house, our savings, everything we had. I was furious that she even thought she could get half of it. I worked my ass off for that house, for those savings. She had no right to take anything just because she cheated. But I knew her type. She'd lie, manipulate, and try to spin everything in her favor. That's why I had to be prepared. I wasn't going down without a fight, especially not over my home and my money. The more I uncovered, the more I realized she wasn't just cheating on me. She was planning her escape. She'd been talking to Mike about leaving, about starting fresh somewhere else, maybe even taking some of the money she'd been funneling. I was stunned that she'd go so far, that she'd betray me like this and then try to walk away with everything. That's when I knew I had to act fast. I couldn't let her get away with it. I had to protect what was mine and make sure she paid for what she'd done. So here I am, standing at this crossroads, feeling betrayed, angry, and ready to fight for what's mine. The worst part, I still love her, or at least I did. But that love is turning into something colder, revenge. I've decided I won't just let her walk away with half my house and all my savings. If she thinks she can cheat, lie, and manipulate her way to a better life, she's got another thing coming. I'm going to make her regret it. I don't care how long it takes. I'll expose her, fight her, and take back what's mine. And when I do, she'll know exactly how much she's lost, because I'm not the kind of guy who gets betrayed and walks away quietly. After I gathered enough evidence, screenshots, bank transfers, secret emails, I knew I couldn't just confront her blindly. I had to be strategic. Was the kind of woman who'd lie her way out of anything, spin stories, deny everything, and probably try to manipulate me into backing off. I realized that if I took her by surprise, I'd have the upper hand. So I kept quiet for a few days, pretending everything was normal, all while I was building my case. In those days, I felt like I was walking on a razor's edge. My mind kept racing, swinging between anger, disbelief, and a strange sense of sadness. It was like losing someone I thought I knew, someone I loved, but also realizing she was a stranger hiding behind a mask. I kept asking myself how I got here. How did I miss the signs? How did I not see her sneaking off to meet Mike? I kept replaying our last few conversations, trying to find some clue I missed, some warning sign that was right in front of me. One thing was clear, was a master manipulator. She knew how to lie convincingly, how to make herself look innocent even when she was guilty. She'd deny everything, call me paranoid, accuse me of spying on her. She'd get bitchy, roll her eyes, and say I was overreacting. But I had proof, so much proof that I knew she was lying, and I wasn't going to let her spin her way out of this one. I started planning my next move carefully. I reached out to a lawyer I knew, someone who specialized in divorce and property disputes. I wanted to make sure I protected my assets, our house, our savings. I knew would try to claim her share, especially since she was already throwing around the idea of separating and getting what's fair. But I also knew she was lying about her own finances. I had uncovered some of her hidden accounts, her secret deposits. She thought she was clever, hiding her tracks, but I was one step ahead. Meanwhile, kept up her act. She'd come home, act sweet, pretend everything was fine. But I saw through her. I saw the nervous glances, the way she avoided my eyes when I asked about her day. I knew she was planning something, probably to spin the story that I was the crazy, jealous husband who couldn't handle her success. She'd probably try to say I was controlling or insecure to make herself look innocent. But I knew better. I knew what she was capable of. One night, I caught her sneaking into her phone again, trying to delete some messages. I saw her hurriedly deleting her texts with Mike, her emails, her browsing history. That was the moment I decided I'd had enough. I sat her down, told her I knew everything, and that I wasn't going to be played anymore. Her face twisted into that bitchy smirk, and she told me I was overreacting, that I was just jealous. I told her I had enough, that I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I told her I was going to get a court order to freeze her accounts. I was going to have everything documented, every email, every transaction, every lie. I wanted her to know that I was serious. I wasn't going to let her walk out with my house or my savings, especially not after what she'd done. I knew she'd try to claim she was entitled to half, that she deserved a share because she was married to me. But I was ready. I'd already spoken to my lawyer and we had a plan. The next step was to bring in the private investigator I hired. I had him follow her for a few days, gather more proof of her plans. Turns out, she'd been talking about moving out of state with Mike, trying to start fresh somewhere else. She'd even looked at apartments online with her own secret email account. She was planning her escape, and I wasn't going to let her take everything I worked for without a fight. It was a lot to process, knowing she'd been cheating, lying, and plotting her escape. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I was finally seeing her for who she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd rather betray her vows than face her own shortcomings. I knew I had to be strong, not just for myself but for what was right. I was determined to protect my house, my savings, and my dignity. That night, I sat down and drafted a list of everything I needed to do. I was going to serve her with papers, get a court order to freeze her accounts, and prepare for the inevitable legal battle. I also started thinking about what I wanted for myself. I knew I couldn't stay with her, not after everything. I had to start planning my next chapter, whether that meant moving out, selling the house, or fighting to stay in it. I wasn't going to let her win, not without a fight. I realized I was angry, so angry I could barely sleep. But I also felt a strange sense of relief, like I was finally taking control of my life again. I'd been yes, but now I was fighting back. And I promised myself that I'd do whatever it took to make her pay for what she'd done, to me, to us, to the life I thought we had. The betrayal was raw, but it was also the wake-up call I needed. I was done being the victim. It was time to be the one in charge. The day I finally served her with the papers was one of the most satisfying moments I've ever had, even though it was also one of the hardest. Watching's face twist in anger and disbelief, as she realized I'd gone ahead with legal action, felt like some kind of victory. She thought she could manipulate her way out of everything, spin her lies, and walk away with half my house and savings. But I was done playing nice. She started screaming, calling me all sorts of names: jealous, controlling, paranoid. She yelled about how I was ruining her life, how she deserved her fair share because she was married to me. She even had the nerve to cry, acting like I was the bad guy for trying to protect what was mine. But I didn't care. I kept my calm, handed her the papers, and told her I was serious. I'd been patient long enough. Now it was time to fight for what was rightfully mine. In the days that followed, true colors came out even more. She tried to spin the story to her friends, to anyone who would listen, saying I was controlling and abusive, trying to make herself look like the victim. But I had the evidence. The emails, the bank statements, her secret plans to leave. I knew she was lying, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I kept my head down, focused on the legal side, and made sure my lawyer was prepared for her next moves. Meanwhile, I also started moving my stuff out of the house. I couldn't stay there anymore, not after the betrayal. I found a small apartment nearby, one I could afford with what savings I had left after the initial legal costs. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I needed space to breathe, to think without her constant presence. Every day I'd come home to an empty place, and honestly, it felt like a weight was lifted. I'd spent years building that house, working hard to pay for it, and now she was trying to take it all. That just made me more determined. She kept pushing, though, was relentless. She tried to guilt-trip me with tears, claiming she was sorry, that she'd never meant to hurt me. She even apologized, sort of, but I could see through it. Apologies from her were just manipulations, attempts to get me to back down. I knew I had to stay firm. This wasn't about her feelings anymore. It was about protecting what I'd worked for and making sure she didn't get her way. One day, she showed up at my new apartment, acting like she was trying to talk things over. She tried to plead, to make me feel guilty for ruining her life. I looked her in the eyes and told her I wasn't interested in her apologies. I told her she had lied to me, cheated on me, and then tried to steal from me. I said I'd fight her in court and that I'd do everything I could to keep what's mine. Her face turned red and she stormed out, cursing me out as she went. That was the last time I saw her face to face for a while. The legal battle was brutal. The lawyer tried to claim that she deserved half the house because she contributed to it, whatever that meant. She even tried to argue that her secret savings and her plans to leave were her separate property, even though I knew she'd hidden a lot of money from me. I had to be persistent, bringing in my evidence, pushing for a court to recognize that her lies and affairs voided any claim she had to our assets. It was draining, emotionally and financially, but I refused to back down. Throughout this process, I felt a mix of emotions: anger, frustration, sadness, and even a little hope. I was angry at her betrayal, sure, but I also realized I was finally taking control of my life again. I was tired of feeling like a victim. Every court date, every piece of evidence I presented, was a step toward reclaiming what I'd lost, my dignity, my money, my peace of mind. And I knew that no matter what, I'd come out of this stronger, even if it hurt. As the months went by, the court rulings started coming in. The judge was clear, had lied, cheated, and tried to manipulate her way into half my house and savings, and she wasn't getting it. She was ordered to pay back the money she'd hidden, and the house remained mine. I felt relief, but also a deep sense of betrayal that it had come to this. I'd loved her, trusted her, and she'd thrown it all away for some stupid affair with her boss. That realization stung almost more than losing the house. The aftermath was a whirlwind. Moved out trying to spin her story as the victim. She kept trying to contact me, pleading for another chance, but I was done. I'd learned my lesson: trust is fragile and betrayal cuts deep. I also learned that sometimes you have to fight for what's yours, even if it means tearing apart the life you built together. I wasn't perfect and I made mistakes, but I knew I'd done everything I could to protect myself. And honestly, that's what mattered most. Now I'm rebuilding. I've started focusing on myself, working out, reconnecting with friends, and figuring out what I want next. I still feel the sting of betrayal every now and then, but I'm learning to let it go. Is gone, and I'm finally free from the chaos she brought into my life. The house is quiet now, but it's my house, my safe space, and I plan to keep it that way. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that no matter how much someone betrays you, you can still come out stronger on the other side. It's been a few months since everything officially settled, and I won't lie, the legal fight drained me, emotionally mostly, but I'm finally starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel. The house is still mine, the savings are intact, and I've managed to carve out some semblance of normalcy. But honestly, the biggest relief came from finally closing that chapter of my life. Is out of the picture, and I don't have to keep looking over my shoulder, wondering what she's up to or what lie she's spinning now. I've learned a lot from this whole ordeal. First, I learned that trust is fragile and that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones most capable of hurting you. Wasn't just cheating, she was actively plotting her escape, trying to take what she thought she deserved without regard for the years we spent building our life. That realization hit hard, but it also made me more cautious moving forward. I won't be so quick to trust again, not blindly. I've become more aware of the signs, more skeptical, and honestly, a little more guarded. Second, I learned the importance of standing up for yourself. I could just rolled over and let her take half the house, but I refused. I fought for what was rightfully mine, and I won. That feeling of standing my ground, of not letting her manipulate her way out of her mistakes, gave me a sense of power I hadn't felt in years. It's a lesson I'll carry with me: never let someone else decide your worth or your future without a fight. Sometimes, you have to be ruthless and relentless to protect what's yours. Third, I realized that healing takes time. I still get moments of anger, of sadness, of regret. Sometimes I wonder if I should done things differently, if I should caught her sooner or fought harder. But I also know I did everything I could. I was honest, I was diligent, and I didn't let her manipulate me into giving her what she wanted. I've started therapy, which has helped me process everything, and I've been leaning on friends who've gone through similar betrayals. It's not easy, and it never will be, but I'm learning to accept the pain and move forward. Now I'm focusing on me. I've started dating again, carefully, slowly, with a lot of caution. It's strange to trust someone new after what I've been through, but I know I can't let that fear control me forever. I want to find someone who's honest, kind, and respectful, someone who doesn't lie, cheat, or betray. I've also been investing more in my career, trying to build a future that's secure and stable. I don't think I'll ever fully forget what happened, but I do believe I can learn from it and become someone stronger. The house, my biggest symbol of what I built with, now feels different. It's quiet, a little lonely sometimes, but it's mine. I've started fixing it up, making it more of a sanctuary rather than a reminder of betrayal. I want to fill it with good memories, not pain. It's a process, but I'm committed to rebuilding my life piece by piece. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the signs sooner, but I also realized that I was blind in love. Love makes you do stupid things sometimes, but what matters now is that I'm still standing, still fighting. I'm not perfect and I still get angry sometimes, but I know I'm better off without her. I'm stronger for having gone through all this. And honestly, I feel more confident about facing whatever life throws at me next. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's that betrayal hurts a lot, but it doesn't have to define you. You have the power to fight back, to protect yourself, and to rebuild. It won't be easy and it won't happen overnight, but eventually you'll come out the other side. Just don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, even when it feels like the world against you. Because in the end, your strength is what gets you through. And I know I'm finally heading in the right direction. Would you like me to continue with part 6? Looking back on everything, I realize how much this ordeal changed me. It's funny, when I first uncovered betrayal, I thought I was going to break. I felt humiliated, angry, and utterly betrayed. But in the end, I learned a vital lesson. No matter how much someone hurts you, you have the power to rebuild. I had to dig deep, find resilience I didn't know I had, and fight for what was mine. That fight wasn't just about the house or the money. It was about reclaiming my dignity, my sense of self, and my future. The aftermath is still a work in progress, but I no longer feel like a victim. I've come to accept that sometimes people you love can turn out to be the very ones who hurt you the most. But I also understand that life goes on, and you get to decide what kind of person you want to be after that. I refuse to let her betrayal define me beyond this moment. Instead, I use it as a reminder to be cautious, to value honesty, and to never take trust for granted. Now, I focus on what truly matters: my health, my peace of mind, and the relationships I want to nurture moving forward. I've let go of the anger that once consumed me, not because I'm weak, but because I choose to move on. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It means releasing the hold that past pain has over me. I've learned that forgiveness is for myself, to free me from bitterness, not necessarily for her. The house, once a symbol of my hard work and love, now stands as a testament to my resilience. I've made it into a home again, filled with new memories, new hopes. I've started investing in myself, learning new skills, reconnecting with old friends, and even thinking about what I want next in life. I don't dwell on what I lost. I focus on what I've gained: clarity, strength, and a renewed sense of purpose. And as I look forward, I realize that the most important thing is to trust myself, to listen to my gut, to recognize red flags early, and to never ignore what my instincts tell me. Betrayal hurts, yes, but it also teaches you how to be smarter, more cautious, and ultimately, more self-aware. I've become more mindful of who I let into my life and more confident in my ability to protect myself. So to anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, know that you're not alone. Betrayal cuts deep, but it doesn't have to break you. You have the strength within you to rebuild, to come out stronger, and to find happiness again. It's not easy, and some days will be harder than others, but trust me, there's light after the darkness. Keep fighting for yourself. Keep standing tall. Because in the end, your happiness and integrity are worth every bit of struggle. I've learned that love, real love, is built on honesty and respect. And if it's broken, it's better to walk away than to stay and endure more pain. I'm finally at peace now, knowing I did everything I could and that I'm moving forward, better, wiser, and more prepared for whatever life throws next. And that's enough. That's everything.